do it anyway. Was that not a great inauguration? Yay. Are we so happy to have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge? And do we love what they're doing? Yay.
Yes.
Yes. Now I do the part where I sell NDTDW and ask you if you want to join or renew. NDTDW.com. You can go on there and renew or join our club.
And Carol, we now have, we've gotten a few more today, but we had 72 members yesterday.
Yay.
And a lot of them are brand new. And a lot of them are coming back since 2018 that were not members in 2019.
Well, great.
We can see them.
You know, we have some social events. We have book club and movie club, but obviously we cannot do movie club because we cannot be together. But we are doing a book club every month. And I think our next one is February 23rd. Do we have a book, Lena? I'll ask him.
Yes, it's the FBI.
No,
Okay.
that's not it. It's the FBI Way by
Okay,
Frank Faglucci.
thank you.
Just wanted to help, Lena.
I just got it today, so I
Me
haven't looked
too.
at it.
Yeah, the FBI Way.
Anyway, if you want to get together with other Democrats and discuss a book, join up with our book club. It's a lot of fun.
And you can do that all from our website.
Yes. Our next meeting is going to be February 26th. And I have some ideas about what to do, but I would love to hear from people about what you would like to know about. So we can have speakers like Anna Maria, who you all want to hear from. So again, you can go on our website and email info@NDTDW and we'll hear it, or Carol Jablonski at att.net. I mean, any way you want to communicate with us, tell us what you'd like to hear about, because we want to respond to you. So with that, I'm going to turn this meeting over to the person you really want to hear from, who is Representative Ana Maria Ramos. And as you know, she campaigned on a number of issues that relate to people. I mean, she's like Medicaid for all, great education. And we elected her because that's what we want. So Ana Maria, tell us what's going on in the legislature now and how you feel about the issues that relate to people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Can you all hear me? Good. Yes. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I love your group. You guys are amazing. I just thank you. It's an honor to be here. So what's going on in the ledge right now? It's kind of weird. They've sent us home, or we've been adjourned until February the 9th. So we've only met a few times, and basically the times that we've met were about adopting rules for this new process or for this new session. But also at the point right now where we've requested our committee assignments. And so for those of you who don't know, when you file a bill, the bill goes to a certain committee. And the speaker assigns the bills to the committees, and then the committees, here you go and you present your bill in front of the committee, so they have to schedule you to hear your bill, and then they vote on your bill. Once they vote on your bill, then it gets sent to the House floor, and then we get the larger vote. So when you present a bill in committee, that's where you usually have experts and witnesses, people supporting your stuff, people against your stuff. Last time we filed bills which we refiled for example, red flag laws, to support the red flag laws. Moms demand action, very active in our community. All of us or most of us are for sensible gun reform, right? Or the reasonable ones of us. Anyway, I refiled those, refiled a couple of more, but we submitted our request for which committees we want. And I submitted requests to be in the same committees that I was in last time, which is natural resources or water, really fighting for our water rights, and the defense and veterans affairs, and then juvenile justice and family issues. And so the idea is, I really want to be better at, you know, whatever I'm learning in those committees. But also, it was really well, I don't want to say concerning, but if you followed the new speaker, so we have a new speaker of the House, his name is Dave Phelan. He's from the Beaumont area, very good friend of our old speaker, the one we just booted out. But something that's been interesting is they've been saying a lot, and I spoke with him, and basically it sounds like they're going to prioritize certain bills and not let the rest of our stuff really see the day of light, the light of day, right? So that's frustrating because that's kind of what happened last time. I mentioned to you all that last time it felt more of an autocracy, right? That he was picking winners and losers from the very beginning. And so a lot of bills weren't even going to committee because the speaker was kind of making those decisions before you could even do anything with your stuff. The clock had ran out. We foresee a lot of that is going to happen again this time, in addition to, or maybe even worse than last time because of the redistricting piece of it. And the redistricting piece, he mentioned it. He said, try to get some bills, local bills, something that's very small and local to your community is what he said. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, because the bigger stuff, we won't have time for that. For us, I hear Medicaid expansion, you know, women's rights, all of that stuff. He said, do the local stuff because the other stuff might get tied up with redistricting and all of that. And he said, and we won't really have time. And so that's very frustrating, but we know we had another meeting with another group of people, and the redistricting piece is going to get really nasty. Now that the idea was, if we could make the decisions in the House, we might have, we're really at a loss all the way around, because even contributing to redistricting in the House, we will lose. The Republicans, I mean, the Democrats will lose, but we definitely don't want it to go to the governor, right, behind closed doors with the you know, the LDB board. So we're hoping with the Biden administration that protection, voter rights protection, right, will help us with the redistricting piece. I threw a lot at you, but it's really concerning the redistricting piece and how we know that there was, I think they said like 10 findings of intentional discrimination the last time they did it in 2010 for the 2010 redistricting, the 2011. There was like 10 findings, I want to say, of intentional discrimination. And we know that Abbott was part of that. He was the attorney general during that time. So they're doing, you know, the nastiness that comes with that, with the redistricting and the you know, beyond nastiness, just the lying and the cheating and the scheming that happened last time is going to come again this time. And so we're going to continue to push through and file our bills that we filed in our new bills, and, you know, continue to advocate for the people. But it's just it's just, I just really hope we would have, you know, taken control of the House, because I truly believe what Trump did at the federal level is really what the Texas House is doing, you know, or the Texas Legislature is doing at our state level. They're really tying our hands. And you would think with this pandemic and all of the deaths, I mean, they fall solely on the lap of Greg Abbott, I believe, and that's me. But, you know, he still didn't say anything about Medicaid expansion during our opening. You know, they're in a complete different reality than the 35,000 deaths we have now in the state of Texas. It's just so freaking disturbing. And so, you know, we're still fighting in addition to, you know, police reform and all of the stuff that's very important to Democrats. But these Republicans, we really won't know, I guess, until everybody gets their committee assignments and where we can really leverage relationships and try to get things through the floor. But, you know, it's very frustrating. But, you know, I think with the people, and I really believe Abbott, if we just continue to pressure him, do a lot of public pressure, but at the end of the day, they're going to suppress our votes one way or another. But anyway, I'm sorry. I always sound so, look, I always doom and gloom, and I'm sorry about that. But
Ana Maria, what people have said on chat is they're interested in redistricting and what they think, and what you're saying is it's probably a little early to talk about that. But do you see any areas where they're willing to work across the aisle? People have said, is there anywhere where they're willing to work with you?
One big thing that we've all talked about a lot is education, right? Maintaining or sustaining the investment in education. So that seems that they're pretty consistent in saying, yeah, we're not going to balance the budget off of the backs of our children. As you'll remember, was it in 2011 where we did the 5.4 billion cuts in public education? And like our local RFD said, it took them about 10 years to crawl out of that. So it sounds like that's somewhere that we could have common ground with keeping our investment in education, looking for alternative sources of revenue. Maybe marijuana, I don't know. We've got a lot of bills that have been signed to legalize marijuana. I haven't heard too much of where they're really looking at the cuts. That they're going to look at a lot of cuts. So one of the good things is, and Carol and Scotty are on this, there seems to be less allocations or the recommendation for fewer funds to the Healthy Texas Women, that Heidi group, that program that never freaking worked in the first place. But they're looking for cuts in areas, and so that's kind of good, but it's bad too, because, you know, there were some providers that were helping people. But I would say education would be our strongest area that we can partner with. I think we might be able to move a little bit with the reform, hopefully with the police, just holding them more accountable, especially with everything that's happened in the past. I don't know how far, but I think we will be able to move some things forward with that. I don't know about Medicaid expansion. Unfortunately, it's so bizarre to me. It's like we're not on the same planet when it comes to that. But yeah, I think that's really where we're at as far as what I can tell right now.
What do you see on responding to COVID? Do you see any like expansion of medical services or anything?
Well, other than, I think it's just we botched it. Well, not we as in just the governor, but they're calls every other week with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and they always give us a rundown, and some of the stuff is like, that's not, there's conflicting information. But the last call that we had, they were really talking about increasing the partnerships with the providers in different communities and with different county services so that they can really extend or increase the access. But even though they can extend the access or increase the list of the providers that they're working with, that doesn't mean we can do anything with that, because we don't quite have all the vaccines that we need. So we could have 1 million provider relationships that have been agreed to by the state. And, they talk about making sure they're in certain communities to make sure, people have access. But if we don't have the vaccines, all of those providers, it doesn't matter. So they are, from my understanding, setting up that framework so then when we do have the release of vaccines, we'll be ready to go. And then, we've all heard at the federal level, with the executive order, they're going to be funding or helping offset some of the costs with the states to get our National Guard helping out with this. But it is frustrating. I know many of you haven't received the vaccine. We haven't either on the House floor. Many of us haven't. And some people have. And it's even our rules on the House floor are very relaxed. It's just so bananas. But we have to wear masks on the House floor, but not everybody's getting tested. We don't have to get tested, and so, as far as the vaccines, I guess we just have to continue to work with them and make sure that they're providers accessible, but we don't even have the vaccines yet or enough of them.
So
But
do you think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
do you think the Biden administration will help you on redistricting and voters' rights? Are you hoping for help from the federal folks?
Yes, yes, yes. We're definitely, I think that's probably one of our biggest saving grace is the Biden administration. He recently, and I don't know, he recently talked about the John Lewis Civil Voting Rights Act and bringing that back, or bringing it. It's been introduced several times, but actually getting it passed. That would probably be our biggest part of one of our largest saving graces, right? That if we put back those protections, then we're under stricter scrutiny here in the state of Texas when we're wanting to pass or continue to proceed with those voter suppression laws. So that will help hopefully balance that, or, you know, put some kind of stay or injunction when they want to pass these laws, if we even get to that this time. But yes, we think that the biggest concern, I think what they were saying, is the release of the census data. So they don't really know because it's uncharted territory, but the release of the census data, it has to be, or the law says that it has to be, for us to do redistricting, the legislature has to have like the first bite of the apple, right? And if the federal government is releasing it on April the 30th, I think they announced, or the census was predicting or hoping that they would be able to release it on April the 30th, that essentially gives the legislature that 30 days, like from, you know, all of May, because we can't do anything about it during a special session. We have to do it during the regular session. And so the question is, will they say, well, you had 3 weeks to do it, y'all didn't do anything, so now it's got to go to Abbott's crew, right? The legislative budget board, or is that, well, it has to go to that group of people to do it, since we had a bite at the apple and we didn't take advantage of it. And so that's the biggest concern. We will use that and challenge that, because even then 3 weeks is not enough time for us to do any type of redistricting. And since it can't go into a special session, if it doesn't go into the board, then it would have to go to the courts, and that is even more favorable. But hopefully with the Biden administration, we could slow some of that stuff down and hold Texas accountable along the way, considering our extensive history of discriminatory practices.
Apparently, with the decision that everybody needs to be counted, we may get more representation in Congress. And I wonder how the Republicans are reacting to that.
I don't think we are. I mean, I think we need to get more representation, but we're so undercounted. So I don't know, Karen, was it 1% undercount last time that we had? Karen, do you remember?
I don't recall, but I can get that information for you.
Okay, so back in the 2010, we had a severe undercount that led to, like, millions and millions of dollars of underfunding. Well, this time it's going to be even worse than that. And that was one of the conversations that the Senate just had with our state demographer, is that our undercount is going to be pretty severe. And I don't remember if they said like 3%, 5%, but it's going to be a very massive undercount because of Trump, right? The whole citizenship question, the start again, on again, off again, and then the pandemic on top of that. And then, you had people go to the doors at the end, that people were scared. So all of those layers, if we were undercounted back then and it was just, I don't trust the government, I'm an immigrant or whatever, that's like, it seems like tenfold this time. So, and we were one of the only states, like California, I think they allocated like 35 million to their budget to do these complete counts committees to make sure that nobody was undercounted. Like California put from their own money, in addition to the federal money, to make sure that their people were counted, because they didn't want to lose representation or funding. For some bizarre reason, Abbott was against that, because the bill was filed and it was presented, and Texas did not put any money on the table. And so, you would think they were going to rig the system anyway in their favor. So why wouldn't they want more money and have 3 other representatives? It's so bizarre to me, because at the end of the day, that means less money for our hospitals, our schools, our roads. It's so bizarre to me that Abbott just sat on it, and we're going to feel it big time once the allocations come out, just in the federal funding. Forget about the representation, the federal funding, we are going to really, it's going to hit us hard.
Okay, I think Sharon, was it your question on the budget? Sharon Hirsch?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you were talking about maintaining funding for public education, would that mean no additional funding for growth or inflation, like maintaining the dollars from last time?
Well, I don't know if they don't estimate any additional funding. I don't know regarding additional funding. I haven't had those conversations or heard those discussions at all. What I have heard consistent is just maintaining that funding. And so I know the argument is we need additional, we always need additional funding, especially with COVID and the additional purchases and all of that stuff that the schools have had to, additional expenses. The state has offsetted some of that, but not all of it. And so I'm not sure about the additional funding part, but the biggest conversation is sustaining that. Was it $11.3 billion investment through the property taxes and the additional, the rainy day fund. So I don't know about more. The idea is, how do we sustain right now? From what I heard, where we have common agreement, it's just keeping what we have and not cutting it back. That's
Right, HB3 meant more money this cycle, right?
Yes.
More additional money.
Right. And so the idea is keeping at that and not going backwards like we did in 2011 when they did a $5.4 billion cut. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was working in a school then, and you could really feel the hit. And I know they're hurting now with the additional expenses allocated to COVID.
Yeah. Well, now that you're talking about it too, one of the other things that's a big thing is that even Republicans are talking is access to internet and, making sure. And so that's part of the school thing too, because schools are also spending a lot of money in technology and getting internet access for their students. So that's something that we have, another conversations that we're having in terms of where we can see alignment. It's just, yeah. We need you, Sharon.
I know, we needed to win those seats. It's devastating. So
yeah,
I know you're going to put up a good fight.
Yeah.
Is there anything bright out there? I mean, anything we can feel good about?
I do this all the time, and I say I'm going to be better, and then here we are. Well, what we could feel good about you all. Really, the community and the voters who did come out, I think we could feel really good about it, because even though we didn't gain really any seats, we did flip a Republican, but we didn't gain any net seats. I think it's still a very strong message, because the reality is, and all of they thought I was a fluke, right? The 12 of us that flipped, there was only one that flipped back, right? The 12 of us that flipped last time, they thought it was a fluke. And so they threw tons and tons of money. I mean, Abbott threw millions and millions of dollars to get rid of us, thinking that it was just a crazy year and they were going to gain those seats back. And they didn't, right? We still have our seats. We still have our stronghold. So I think that's a really good message, because they know that the tide was not just, it was a Bethel. I heard that a lot too. It was a Bethel bump, that now that Bethel's gone, y'all are all going to lose. I mean, they thought we would lose, and we didn't do what they did, right? Knock on the doors. We did social distancing and all that stuff. They just thought they would wipe us out, and they didn't. So I think that's a really good message, that us voters, the Democrats, we're here to stay, and we're still paying attention, whether it's, presidential or midterm, we're here. And so I really believe, had we lost more seats, it would have been really bad. They would have got crazy with it. Like, what is it? In the hen house, or the wolf in the hen house or whatever.
Fox.
Yeah. I think that would have happened. But the fact that I'm thinking Mexico. Anyway, my mind's going everywhere. But I think that really sent a strong message to them that, you know, no, we're here to stay and we're still paying attention and we're going to still be part of this change. And so it really blocks them. In addition to the having, thank God, now that we have, right? I mean, that is huge for us, for Texas, because they've gotten away with so much for such a long time. And, you know, maybe at the state level, they're still, you know, they're going to have to scale it back. They're going to have to scale back their rhetoric. They're going to have to scale back because now somebody's watching from the very top. They're not, you know, some crazy man who's telling them to do all this stuff. They're really going to have to be careful. So I think that's wonderful. The fact that we kept our people and then we brought some, you know, help from the federal level. That's huge.
So on Medicaid for all, do you think that's dead in the water or you think there's a possibility?
We're going to keep fighting. Unfortunately, I haven't heard them say, I didn't even, I mean, the governor really hasn't said anything about supporting it. I really believe he would kill it. And that's what they talk about all the time still, of how, you know, Texas has to pay in the beginning. This is not the time to pay the federal government, whatever. It's all nonsense because we know the federal government is going to give us more money to start this great program. And then, you know, it'll help people and save money in the long run. So I just still think it's wonderful. There's still bills that are filed. We're still going to push it through. But, you know, I don't know that we got to get rid of Abbott. That's all I got to say. We really got to get rid of that man because he's stopping progress, and his people, they're stopping progress. And so I don't want to say it's dead in the water because I'm hopeful that you know, Trump lost and he's gone, you know, and that's just like, there is a God, you know,
Yes.
Trump lost, you know, and all of the crookedness and all of that stuff, he's gone. So you know, I don't want to say it's dead in the water. I'm hopeful. You know, this world is crazy, and we were all amazed and surprised in November. And I think we're going to get some other surprises, maybe not because, you know, maybe from the federal level, they're going to have something to help us because they know we need it bad. So, you know, let's just keep our fingers crossed and continue to be hopeful. I don't think just because we think Abbott's crazy not to file those bills, we've still got to keep fighting. We still got to keep putting them forward and then using that same information against future, you know, candidates who run and, you know, the Morgan Myers of the world and the Angie Chin Buttons who, what did she win by 200? I mean, that's crazy. And so I really believe putting the pressure on them with some of these votes, they know we smell blood in the water, you know? And so if, you know, watching her and putting pressure on her that, hey, Angie, you got to vote on this Medicaid expansion. This is our community. This is whatever. Like, I really think we got to keep the pressure on these people with those thinner margins. We can get them. They know we're watching. And she was, to me, she appeared to be very scared last time. So I think the fact that she only won by a little over 200 or whatever, that's.
I mean, I was out there with Angie Chen Button at the polls, and she kept saying how well she got along with Democrats and, you know, how she worked with them. So we ought to hold her feet to the fire on all that. Yeah.
She says that all the time, but and she's the nicest person when she comes to you, but her votes are the crazy. I mean, they are absolute. She's a Linda Coop is exactly what it was. I mean, she will say what you want to hear. Sorry about the dogs, but her votes were so right wing. It was crazy and frustrating.
Okay. Do you think that the lack of door knocking really hurt us?
Yes, I do. And you know, in our team with our precinct chairs, we discussed that too. I really do. I think it really hurt us. We were, because of our precinct chairs, we were, I mean, really blessed, but I think that hurt a lot of us. We were doing what was the right thing to do. The Republicans weren't. And I think you could see it at the polls. I think we did the best that we could considering, but I think next time we do have to knock on those doors. Even if we're 10 feet away, we have to knock.
I'm going to open it up to some of you who haven't put questions in chat. Do you have anything you'd like to ask Anna Maria? But just be polite and don't talk over each other.
Well, Anna Maria, we were told by Governor Hinojosa that you could not get money from the DNC if you decided to door knock. And it was Retta Bowers who went ahead and door knocked, and she won. She said a number of people were saying no, she shouldn't, but she had all of her people taking all the precautions, and she thinks it really helped. Did you discuss that you might want to go ahead and do that?
Well, I didn't hear that. Honestly, I don't even know if we received money from the DNC or not. But we did lit drops. So Carol knows. I mean, we were out there doing lit drops. So, yes. So we did go to the doors and drop off information. Yeah, and we had little plastic bags and we left them on the door. So we hit our doors. We just didn't wait to talk to somebody. And so that may have been the parameters, the DNC, but you all know we don't do based on what they tell us they're going to give us or not give us. We do what our team thinks we should do. And it was a consensus within our team as well, like protect people's space for our own health, for their health. We decided that was the best call for us. But now our team has also decided the best call next time is to go ahead and knock on doors and take those precautions. So do both. But yeah, you're probably right, Lena. I'm sure that's exactly what they told Retta, but we didn't have those conversations. We made our own choices, and that's the choice that we decided. But I think ultimately that did hurt our party.
I have to say, I wondered a little bit because I could go to more doors when I wasn't knocking and talking to people. I could do a lot more doors. And so I don't know if we maybe covered more doors. But I mean, sometimes you can persuade people by talking to them, but you know that a lot of people don't open their doors anyway. So it's all kind of, yeah.
You know, Carol, and one thing that I know for sure for us that helped us, I don't know how impactful our lit drops were, but I can tell you the lit sticks, now that was extremely helpful. And Becky knows when we were at the polls, Becky was the queen of making sure everybody who walked in the polls at Fretz had a lit stick with all the Democrats on there. That was brilliant, and Becky can attest, that was just, people were walking to the polls with the one that was stuck on their door. And would you agree, Becky?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the lipsticks were great, but any kind of piece of information, and the message was here, this will make it really,
I do think those are good.
yeah, the message was here, this will make it really quick and easy and fast for you to get in and out, so you don't have to be around cootie germs. And people loved it. I mean, it was, because they couldn't vote straight ticket, but it was like, here's the people you need to vote for, all Democrats, good to go. And people loved it, so.
Anna Maria, I've been told that there was a bill introduced to bring straight ticket voting back. What do you think that the chances of that are?
I mean, it depends on who's on the elections committee. I don't think they'll want to bring it back, especially considering Abbott's going to be on the ballot next time, So I especially not this session. I really don't think that they're going to want to bring it back this time, but I think we will bring it back eventually when Democrats take over. But Lena, I don't think that we'll get that back. However, like Becky said, I think was without that straight ticket, it was really going to hurt us. And it didn't. I don't think it may have hurt us a little bit, but the lipstick, for those of you who haven't seen the lipstick, it was something that the Far East Dallas Dems created, and it was a one-sheeter like a Post-it, and the graphics were amazing. And it was a Post-it, so we would just have it at the polls, and they would just rip it off, or we'd rip it off, and they would take it in there with them. And they also ripped it off and would stick them on doors in our district. So when people would go vote, I didn't even have to touch them. I would just rip it off and give it to, or they would rip it off themselves. and they would walk in there with it, and it was beautiful because it only had the Democratic candidates. We only had a couple of Republicans who were upset about it because they wanted their lit stick, and we're like, you're on your own. Your party didn't have one, you know, because we got the creative peeps on our side, and it was so awesome. That lit stick to the bunch, Christy and everybody else who worked on that was amazing. That was just, I think that really helped us a lot. Even, I would say probably even more than the lit drop. That lit stick was amazing.
We went through an awful lot of it, even out there in Garland where Angie Chen Button was. I mean, you know, a lot of people took it and looked at it.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
awesome.
I have a question. What do you think about Jamie Harrison as our new DNC chair? Any opinion?
No, I haven't really researched that a lot. So no, I really don't have an opinion, but I'm sure you all will let me know your opinion.
Carol, can I ask a quick question? Oh, Anna Maria, what's your sense of when people call the offices of the legislators, like how persuasive that is, how important those phone calls are in pushing them to vote, or does it really matter? I mean, are the Republicans going to vote how they're going to vote, and the Democrats are going to vote how they're going to vote, and it doesn't matter whether we call and try to put some public pressure on folks?
I'm a true believer still in civic engagement, and we have a system where it shows when a bill comes up. If your staff is putting those calls in our database, it'll show how many, when you're on the House floor voting on a bill, it'll show how many people called to support it and called to oppose it. So it allows me, when I'm on the floor, to look at a bill and I'm like, okay, I know these people in my community support or oppose. Usually I know already from hearing from you all or the meetings that we have where we stand. I don't know that that's the case for most people, but I always say, I think they do help. And I know in like some of the committees that I was in, the other representatives who would be on the committee before we vote out a bill or whatever, they would be discussing, I got a lot of calls. Did you get calls? Yeah. And so they would either like table the bill sometimes because they were getting so many calls, or they would table it to learn more about it or to amend it. So I think it does help. I really do, because I saw it in practice where maybe a bill that somebody had filed, they thought it was one and done, it was going to get through. But after so many calls and stuff and you know, people starting to ask questions, they would hold on to it a little bit to explore it a little further. So if anything, it causes them to stop and think before they just an automatic yes or no because the lobbyist said so. And I really like the fact, well, for our office, the lobbyist groups, I think, are more, their hands are more tied, you know, because not a lot of people are taking visits and stuff like that. So all the more reason our people need to be the masses who are speaking the loudest, you know, through the calls and the emails and all that stuff.
Speaking of that, we had been talking about on the NDTDW board of doing a meeting basically aimed at telling people how to lobby effectively in this time of COVID. I'd kind of like everybody to go in on chat and tell us if you think that's something that would be a good topic to get as many people next time as we have this time.
Yeah, I think it would be good for, I think we underestimate the power of our voices. And that's why I was telling another group the other day that once we become part of the process, whether it's sending a letter and then the next thing you know, it's serving as a witness against a bill or for a bill, like that empowers us, the masses, even more, right? And so the more that we're part of the process, that we don't just leave the lobbying to the oil and gas industry or to the insurance companies or to the banks, that we are in their faces too. You know, I think that's an untapped power that we have that we really haven't explored. The voting is good and all of that stuff. We need that. But the lobbying and holding the representatives accountable, that being in their face through, whether it's through Zoom or, you know, I had 20 people that wanted to do a Zoom meeting about a bill, I'll listen. You know, you're going to make me stop and think. I don't care if I'm the most hardcore Republican, but even then, those Republicans like Angie Chin Button and Morgan Meyer, and you're going to get them to step back and think twice before they just check an automatic box because they're told to. So yes, Lena, I think that is huge, and we can help set that up and help with that training in any way you guys want us to. But I think, you know, with our precinct chairs and our people in an organization, like, I think we've mastered, or, you know, we're pretty close to the mastery of registering people to vote and knocking on doors. Now we got to take it to the next level. You know, we got our bachelors, now we got to get our masters, and that's the lobbying part, you know, our expertise in how to really influence that legislation and create legislation.
I mean, we used to get busloads of people to go down and lobby on lobby day, and that's, you know, right now that's not a viable solution.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of positive response on helping with lobbying. So I think we need to move forward with that. But I've had a couple questions on bills doing away with deputy registrars. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, we were on a call the other day with several groups. Yeah, there are a couple of those bills. They were filed, if I recall correctly, they're refiles from previous, the last term. What was interesting about a couple of those bills, the people that were on the elections committee filed those bills. And so typically, if I'm going to be in that committee and I file a bill, usually my committee will push my bill forward, right? Because I'm part of the elections committee. I have an election bill. It'll probably get pushed forward. Those bills didn't go anywhere last time. So and Kane were two of the big ones trying to really like increase the penalties for VDRs and all of this stuff, or sending them to the Secretary of State, making sure that she's able to verify all registrations. They have to match with DPS, all of that stuff. But those bills didn't make it anywhere. I really don't think those bills will make it anywhere this time either. They're too controversial. I think they'll take too much time. And then the people who have filed them, they didn't get them anywhere last time. And it was a better, you know, environment for that than this time.
Well, so do you think we can work with your office, Ana Maria, to know what bills we should be lobbying against and what we should tell our people, you know, who they need to, you know, what is it that's hot right now and that we need to talk about?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely we can we can gather some information about, like, for example, those election bills with your team. Mm-hmm. We would love to help you make sure that, you know, all of you are set up to monitor the certain bills, like those election bills, and making sure that you get those alerts when the hearings come up, or that it's time that, you know, the calls need to be made, so that everybody's aware of following the process of the bill. I think that would be really important and powerful, especially for this group, and making sure that, you know, we continue to register people to vote and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But if there's any other bills, like women-specific bills, we're still, you know, trying to increase Medicaid for women postpartum. I know Representative Sherman filed a bill to make sure that a task force with the mortality rate, especially with our African-American women, right? We had the highest mortality rate with our postpartum mortality rate. So there are several bills, and we have a list of several of them here. Now, just because a bill is filed doesn't mean it's going to a committee yet, right? And so it could just sit there and be filed and nothing can happen. For example, we refiled our bill. We had a hearing about it, or one of our bills, where women are getting unconsensual pelvic exams. And there's only 11 states in the country who have a law where you cannot, that medical students cannot you can't get a pelvic exam without your consent. There's only 11 states that there's a law that requires your consent. We are not one of those states. So if you go to like a medical school or whatever, the consent form typically is so broad that it will allow that to happen. And they did a study, like a medical school in Oklahoma, 90% of the medical students said they performed a pelvic exam on women without their consent, just based on this vague consent form. So, which doesn't specifically provide that pelvic exam consent. So there are bills like that we're gonna continue to, we've already filed it. but additional bills that we could help send it to you all. And if Carol, if your team is like, yeah, we really want help on monitoring these, then we can definitely get that information and provide the links. We could actually even put it on our website. We have a TexasRepRamos.com website, and we're actually working on helping facilitate and make the process easier so you could identify those bills. So Karen, why don't we put that on our website, like a link for women's bill tracker or something? And then we can include these bills on there to help you like be able to find the bill, not only through our link, but then you can start playing with the Texas website where the links go directly so that you can familiarize yourself with how to find these bills.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, one of the things that was really popular with our group was the ability to like send postcards. We sent, when it was at over 10,000 postcards trying to influence. I mean, people would like the opportunity to do something even if they can't go in person. We like to be activists. And so to the extent you can help us activate,
yeah,
that would be great.
I think that would be good, Carol. And I think we just need to put some major pressure on Abbott, like be borderline stalker level. If you've ever been stalked or stalked somebody in high school or college, like we got to stalk this man because his election is coming up. And he thinks we're going to forget that he's ignored us with the pandemic, that he's, you know, targeted us with his voter suppression Secretary of State, that Ethan Johnson and Beverly Powell, that we had them in the Senate to stop that appointment of his voter suppression Secretary of State. He had to bring in somebody else who was a woman. So, you know, he thinks we're going to forget about this stuff. And I think those postcards and those letters and posting them and tagging them and using social media to put pressure on this man, because he does stuff and then he steps back and then, you know, acts like he's innocent and all of this, and then he'll move other stuff around. He is so sinister that we have to keep the pressure on him so that he knows come election time. And there was a question about Paxton. We got to get rid of those people, you know, and we got to continue to keep that pressure.
Somebody asked, who do you like to run against Abbott? Do you have any preference? Any Democrat?
You're probably going to kill me.
Are we hearing Beto?
You guys are probably going to kill me. I would love Beto, Scotty. I know people say never or whatever. I think I still love him and I still think he's amazing. I haven't heard anything if he is though. His cousin was at the polls when we were at Fred's. And I asked his cousin, is he running for governor? And he's like, I don't know. He hasn't told us anything. So, but you know, Carol, I mean, and Scotty, the fact that he was so active in this past election, making sure he had a lot of calls with us. Yeah. You all know, you probably on some of them, and powered by the people and still gathering data. You know, I don't think he's doing that so he can go away. I'm hoping that he does run for governor. Maybe
we should send him postcards.
Yes, maybe that would be good.
Carol, can I make a suggestion? Carol,
what? Yeah.
I think that maybe NDTDW needs to set up an official liaison between our club and Anna Maria's office, so we can have that person stay on top of things and get our membership notified. So any of y'all out here watching and listening, think about if that might be something you'd want to do and talk to Carol.
And I may approach some of you, so. Any other questions?
Can I ask for one thing, and that's that House Bill 1048, I think it is. I just had it up on my computer. It's the one that they're trying to outlaw the number of deputy registrars, and I really do think that it's a form of voter suppression, and I really do think that deputy registrars have a lot of effect in the overall turnout this last time, because I know I worked with a lot of people on that.
Who filed it? Do you know, Scotty? Do you know who filed it?
I do not.
Okay, we'll look it up. Okay.
Well, if you look that up, Anna Maria, and get some information, we can send it out to people.
Okay, I've got a letter and I'll send it to y'all.
Hey,
Okay.
can I, on the redistricting thing, Anna Maria, do you hear feedback on whether the testimony in front of the Senate redistricting committee is getting any traction or anything? Like I went to a great online training. I think it was All on the Line. Eric Holder's group did an online training and it was wonderful. I haven't testified yet, but are you hearing anything about public testimony?
You know, I was watching the public testimony just last week. I do, Becky. I think that is wonderful. I think more people and everybody had their own like point of view and perspective in testifying. And it was so cool to see like middle-aged people from some, you know, rural area were as concerned as a young brown kid in the city area and all. So, and the senators were asking really good questions. I'm talking about Texas, the redistricting hearing that they had last week. I think so, Becky, because I think sometimes, you know, people think, oh, it's just me and the people in my circle think this way, or, you know, but when you started seeing all the different voices from all over Texas, professionals, students, retirees, it was very powerful. And then the senators appear to be very engaged as well and asking questions. I think it matters. And so people think they have to have all of these key points. Some people had like prepared speeches, others just key points and talk, you know, and it was really cute, like wearing suits and stuff like that on the video. But no, Becky, I think we should all testify and say what we need. That's our right. And I think it's important. So yeah, I would definitely support that.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, are there any other questions? Well, I know, Anna Maria, we're starting to see people, I mean, there was a cutoff for money and they're not running, but you're starting to see people talking about running for the next session.
Oh, awesome.
Is there anything we can do to help you now, or are you going to wait till like the summer to launch stuff?
Well, I think the biggest help for us is to now flip, because we're still have our steering committee and task forces and all of that stuff. But I think the most important thing for the team and for people is to be part of the legislative process, to help in that part as you know, being vocal or signing up as a witness or notifying and getting those postcards out about this legislation, because a lot of what we do, and I think I've mentioned it to many of you all, sometimes it's a beat down when we're fighting and fighting and fighting. And you're like, I want to make a touchdown, but you can't even get the ball in your hand because like you're constantly fighting against this bad legislation and to protect all these people. And so when it's a constant, it's tough. It's just tough. It's also tough on the soul, to be honest with you. Like, you know, and I mentioned to you all, you know, a couple of times my heart was like, do I really want to do this? Because it's so hard. And when you see our people are getting trampled on because of some lobbyist group and whatever, it breaks your heart. But at the same time, we have these meetings and you're like, I got to go fight again. I got to fight harder. And so having you all as part of the fight, helping us monitor those bills, writing those letters, being vocal, you know, during this legislative process and helping us with that fight to fight those bills on this end, Carol, I think that would be huge to have your voices behind us on all of that stuff as we're trying to kill all those bills, that they know you're not going to get away with this, because we know how to get people to the polls. Let's get people to advance this, you know, help advance this great legislation and stop this bad legislation where they will think twice before they file some nonsense because they know we're watching. That's, I think, where we can master our skill in the next 6 months to 8 months, because they said we might be there in September, you know? Yeah. And so we have to use this time to master our legislative expertise skills.
So like letters about particular bills, email forms, information on who to send, that would be helpful to you.
Yes, that would be helpful. You know, we get a lot of those form letters. I think I mentioned to you all in the beginning, I got form letters like the Democrats are trying to ban the Bible. These 5 bills are horrible. Please don't support them. And basically, they were anti-discrimination bills. And so I told the staff, find those 5 bills and let's joint author those bills, because it was all about, you know, non-discrimination bills, but it was LGBTQ, and, you know, all of these form letters were, oh, you know, we're trying to ban the Bible. And so that one, you know, didn't help their cause. It helped alert me to things that I needed to support. And so we signed on those bills. But those form letters, we get them. And the numbers are coming in. We know what matters to people, but that does help us keep a finger on the pulse of the community for those of us who care.
Okay, any other questions? Well, Anna Maria, I want to thank you so much for taking the time while you're in session to talk to us. And hopefully we can all work to help support you and the work of the Democrats in the House and the Senate. So hopefully we'll be able to work with your office and keep our folks informed and go forward to victory in 2 years.
Yes,
Well,
thank you, Carol. Thank you.
Session and in 2 years.
Yes,
And just so you all know, I will be processing this video event and posting a link to it on our website in the next day or 2.
So if you have anybody else you think would be interested in this, would be interested in helping, I mean, we would love you to join NDTDW, but if you just want to be on our email and receive information, that's fine too. And because we're all in this together, right?
Yes, yes. And if you want to run for office, or if you're thinking of running for office, whether it's at the local school board level, the municipal level, the, you know, state level, whatever, we're here to serve as a resource. Please don't think twice. Put your name in the hat. You never know. You know, some people are like, I'm only going to run if I win. No, run, because that's how they continue to get away with these people. Because, you know, like even in Dallas, we have certain city council people who, if nobody runs against them, they're going to continue to advance their agenda. We got to let them know that they can't, that they have to be on the defense, that we're watching. And so just because you think you can win or not, it doesn't matter. It's getting our perspective and those conversations, forcing those people to have those conversations in the space that we want our government to be. So please think about it.
And I mean, even if they don't win this time, I mean, it's like Laura ran and moved the ball, and then you were in a little bit better position the next time around.
That's right. And it was due to Laura and her effort and the team that she built together, and Wendy Davis's team and what she taught the people, that when I ran, all of you all had this great information that we put it together, and that's what helped us get across the finish line. But starting from scratch, it would have been much more difficult, but everybody had a little bit of piece knowledge that they learned somewhere, that we brought it together. We all just throw your hat in there and run.
Okay,
We appreciate you.
One last opportunity. Any more questions? Anything you want to say?
Thank you. Thank you, Anna Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
your
you,
back.
Anna Maria.
Thank you.
We love
Thank
you.
I love
We
you
love
all
you.
too. Thank you, Jill.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say goodnight for all of us. And if you want to see this again in the next, I'll send out an email when it gets posted on the website. Depends upon if I can tear myself away from this series of crazy books I'm reading. So, okay.
Thank you so much, Anna Maria, for joining us and taking the time.
Yes,
Thank
somebody was
you.
saying something to me.
I was just going to say, I'll try to find the link to that training video about how to testify in the Texas redistricting hearing.
Okay.
It
Yes.
helps prep you. Yeah.
Yeah, send that to me if you would,
Okay,
please.
let me find it.
Okay. Night, night, everybody.
Thank you, Karen.
Becky,
Thank you, Anna
please,
Maria.
please send that link training
Bye,
to me
everybody.
as well, if you don't mind.
I will.
think
I will. I just
I'm
gotta
gonna
find
put
it.
a web page on our site with redistricting info, because
Yeah, and it was
a
a
lot
really
of you
good
guys have been-
PowerPoint.
Oh, good,
And
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd
Karen-
appreciate that.
Karen, I'll put you on our distribution list too. So,
Please do. I was about to go sign up because I want to get your emails and I just want to stay in the loop. And we're already working on the template for the website to add all of these bills that we're really interested in.
Oh, good.
Even if we're not authoring them ourselves, a lot of them, whether they're bad bills or really good bills, we know that you guys want to keep track of them. And so if we put them all in one place, it's going to make it 10 times easier.
I would
So
like
we're
to,
working on that.
yeah, I'd like to link that from our website so we don't have to recreate it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna, I have to get it approved by Representative Ramos first, and then by next week, we should have something up.
Cool.
Thank you,
Okay.
Karen.
Thank
Karen,
you.
Good night,
Great meeting.
everybody.
Night
Great meeting,
again.
ladies.
I know, I'm
Good
so happy I
night.
got to
It's a
see
really
all
good
of
meeting.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.